The next couple of things I wanted to talk about were pick choice and amp settings. There are many different kinds of picks you can use. Let's talk about them individually. We'll talk about the pros and cons of each, and then I would recommend that you guys try all of them and find the one that suits you best. All right, so we're going to start off with a thin pick. Let's see how this goes. Okay, so this is really, for me, it's quite strange. I usually don't use a pick, but one thing that I'm noticing when I use this is there's not a lot of give from the pick because it bends when I hit the strings. It's almost like it's bending around the string, and that feels quite weird to me. So it doesn't involve a lot of effort to push through the string because it's a very sort of soft, flimsy touch. I'm also noticing that acoustically, it's not that loud either. So it doesn't have much of an aggressive attack. With enough distortion, you can kind of get away with it for rhythm, but I do generally find that the thicker picks will sound a bit beefier with your rhythm, and also when you're playing acoustically as well. All right, so let's take a look at the medium picks now. All right. So comparatively to the flimsy pick, I just tried the thin one before. Obviously, there's a little bit more tension. I'm not just sort of falling through the strings like butter, which is kind of interesting. But I am noticing my rhythm guitar sounds a little bit fatter, and I can play the strings a little bit harder without the pick just sort of bending around my thumb, which feels kind of weird as well. So in a way, the medium pick is a good way to get the best of both worlds when it comes to being able to control your rhythm guitar and keeping it kind of fat, but also being able to play lead guitar with a tiny bit of flim. So this might be a good place for you beginners to start, but as I said, let's try all of them and figure out which one works best for you. All right, so I've just switched to a heavy pick. I really like the feel of heavy picks. One thing I really like is obviously acoustically you can hear that they have a lot of attack to them. And with the flimsy picks, you can kind of just gently push through the strings. With the heavy picks, the pick doesn't bend, so you actually have to push through quite hard to get through the strings. Even if I play, a phrase like this, something like that, if I play that acoustically, I'm finding myself having to pick the string quite hard, and pairing sort of an aggressive and angry sounding shred, run, or scale with an angry picking technique, it feels really good. So that's something to consider. It is the polar opposite of the thin pick, so everything that you might like about the thin pick is not going to come through with the heavy pick, so that's just something to keep in mind. Okay, so now we're going to deal with this short little stubby jazz pick. Let's see how this goes. All right, this is really interesting because there's very little space in between my hand and the strings. So I feel very at one, if you will, with the strings, and it makes me feel like I can play quite fast with these jazz picks. It does feel weird though, if I go to say something like a Creeping Death style riff. I don't know, there's something about the way that you have to hold the pick because you don't have a lot of extra pick kind of sticking out of your hands that feels weird. So jazz picks can be really good for speed, but it does feel weird how little they stick out and what that's going to do to your rhythm guitar playing. So that's something to keep in mind. We're now going to end on my pick of choice, my fingernails. This is only really for weirdos. I started off as a bass player, and for some reason I found that growing my nails like a flamenco player and then playing like that, and then when I got into heavy metal, this kind of thing started to happen, and I was finding I had sort of more of a connection with the strings when I was playing faster leads and that kind of thing. So I guess the plus of this is that you'll be really, really close to the strings and you'll be able to feel the string work around your finger. You do need to shape your nail in a certain way to make sure that the string is going through it. And obviously when the nail breaks, my world crumbles and falls apart, and I need to go back to one of the other 4 options to make do between shreds. So that's the nail option. If you are looking for something that's a little bit more long lasting, Chris Broderick has some cool picks that are kind of based around my picking style as well, where you can get stuff over the top or even stuff on your thumb as well that will wrap around, which are a bit less conventional than your normal picks, but they will cooperate with this sort of weird fingernail style of guitar playing. Lastly, I wanted to talk about amp settings. Now, I've heard many teachers say only practice clean. That's the best way to hear all your mistakes or whatever, but I disagree with that. I think it's important to practice both. And the reason I say this is there's going to be a point where you need to deal with how much distortion is coming out of your guitar and how to clear up all of those notes that you'll be playing that are covered in fuzz. Distortion is going to increase the volume and attack of everything that you do. All of the extra squeaky notes are going to come through. So it's important to be able to deal with that load. As we go through this course and we deal with all of these different exercises, I want you to be able to practice and play all of the exercises on a clean and distorted setting and figure out which is going to be the best way for you to practice.